and it goes beyond that, right? Because you mentioned Dr. Umar. He gives a great analogy of when you marry outside of your race, especially if you someone of prominence and have an exorbitant amount of money, that money leaves the community.
I gotta ask you, what's your opinion on Dr. Umar Johnson? You know, he's kind of polarized.
All right, well,
so you know, I gotta ask you.
I gotta
I ask.
Yeah, I gotta get you the documentary. You posted up the cover. I don't know if you've seen it. Dr. Umar's in the first and the second documentary.
Exactly. So you have a personal relationship with him, or basically a close maybe knowing of him.
Dr. Umar is cool, man. You know what I mean? He's cool. He's all right with me. You know, as far I will tell you this. You know, I'm not an individual that looks at a person like personal flaws. You know what I mean? Yeah. But when you talk about the school to prison pipeline, ain't nobody cold with that subject more than him. Right? You know, you talking about you know, being Pan-African. Yeah, you know what I mean? Now, when people want to go outside of that and, you know, what I think personally about him, you know, I don't know what that man do in his personal life, you know what I mean? But when he get on YouTube, you know what I mean, and he talk that talk, oh yeah, I rock with him. You know what I mean? Now, some people, you know, they want to know where the school at.
There you go. I think
that's what he want to know. He want to
No. I'm a fan of Dr. Umar. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying this because we got listeners who might not be so much of a fan of his. Yeah. You asked earlier who's a fan of a certain person, and I said I might not be a fan of somebody just because they may say some good things and some bad things that may not have a view of what you think of that person. So let's relate the same kind of vision on Umar, where some people may say, "Hey, well, I don't like," because since they don't like the one thing about this person, they don't like nothing about him, and they can't see the good in whatever else he's doing because he ain't produced the school. See what I'm saying?
I would tell you,
I will buy into about 85 to 90% of what Umar says.
Yeah, I would tell you one thing that I fundamentally disagree with him. Right? I'm not gonna get into all of it, you know what I mean? But one day, I'm gonna pull him to the side and I want to have a conversation with him. You know what I mean? But every time I see him, you could just imagine there's a line going this way and a line going that way. Exactly. They want autographs. Yeah. These people want to speak to him. This line over here want pictures. So it's always a brief interaction. You know what I mean? But man, when he talk about reparations for Foundation Black Americans, I don't like his stance on it. I don't agree with none of that he's talking about. You know what I mean? Because when I think of reparations, right? You have in the Caribbeans and Africa, they got what is called CONCAM, something like that. Yeah. And that's for the British and France that enslaved them over there. When we talk about foundational Black Americans, we're talking about those that can trace their lineage back to 1870. You know what I mean? That people are from the United States. You know what I mean? That you had parents or grandparents. You know what I mean? That your lineage can be traced back to there. And he doesn't believe in that. And he you know, like most people, they saying that, oh, reparation is a pipe dream. People never thought slavery. Just think about those that was enslaved. They never thought it was to be a day that slavery would end, and that there would be a Black man that would be the commander in chief of the United States. The same way people feel about reparations. We might not see it, but guess what? The next generation might see it. You know what I mean? We have to fight that fight for them. You know, there's a Black woman named Callie House, right? She had what they call the ex-slave pension. It was called the Ex-Slave Pension and Mutual Fund, right? You know how long ago that was? That was in the 1800s, right? She had a petition, and she was fighting for reparation. Look up Callie House and look what the United States did to her and the things that they was doing, because this one Black woman was fighting that good fight for reparations. You know, there's so many other people, but his stance on reparation, getting back to it, I fundamentally don't agree with. You know what I mean? And I seen him give a speech where he said he was really like going in on people that's pushing for the reparation movement.
Yeah.
And his whole thing was black people shouldn't get reparations because they're gonna squander their money, right? When the Japanese got reparations for being in internment camps, right? Ain't nobody said nothing about where they should spend their money. When the Jews get reparations, when the Mexicans get reparations, and every other ethnic group, nobody's concerned what they're gonna do with their money, right?
What they're gonna do with the money.
And he said, this is the reason why black people shouldn't get reparations. But these are the same black people, right? That you asking for money to build your school. These are the same black people that gave you donations and money that amassed to the tune of a couple of $1 million now that you got a school. So there are those amongst us that know what to do with our money. You know what I mean? You know how many people built businesses and started companies that got that PPP loan? So there's those amongst us like, listen, of course there's going to be people that squander their money. You know what I mean? Of course, people gonna buy stuff that they don't necessarily need. We do that when we don't have money.
Yeah,
but that don't mean that we're not deserving of that money. So when he talked that talk, man, I'm like, bro, what are you doing? So if we don't deserve it, who deserves it? So that's the only thing I probably won't agree with him on. And anybody